here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Game day live on site on location at Myers Creek. We're here one more time, Mr. Alford, for Syracuse's football season. Unfortunately, we'll not have a bowl season this season, but we're building toward the future. Fran's already talking about recruiting. He's already talking about what's coming up, what's going to be at signing day. Already wants people to get excited about what Dart will look like as we step forward. Of course, Fran was here yesterday from Myers Creek, where we are for Wake Up Call Game Day Live. We've been here for Syracuse Orange football, all the home games this season.
Yep.
And so it's hard to believe that we have finished the home stint and essentially finished the season after today, mid-afternoon. But Syracuse will take on, in rivalry week, they will take on their rival. So seeing Syracuse take on Boston College, it's still a game that has meaning. It's still a game that's the old Northeast, the old Big East. They still cannot stand each other. And when you watch these two teams play against each other today, you will not see two teams, in my opinion, that are at the bottom of the ACC. You're going to see two teams that are going to be playing like they're playing for a Northeast championship, because there is no love lost between the two. So I know that Syracuse fans are frustrated. I know it's been a rough year. But listen, when you support your city, you support us when we're up, you support us when we're down, because nobody wants a family member that only shows up when you're making good money and you got a promotion. So for one last time, Syracuse fans, this season, can you please give a round of applause to Fran and the crew? Show them some love. Be good to the team here. So happy to be here, and happy to have my buddy Isaac Elford hanging out here. Of course, we are live worldwide on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on live internet streaming radio on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. I want to thank Myers Creek. I want to thank Colby and Cody, as well as Nick and the whole crew. I want to thank everyone that's behind the scenes at Myers Creek that has done a fantastic job promoting Game Day Live. And I'm so happy to bring Wake Up Call to Myers Creek, because I love the food, I love the atmosphere, and I love the location in Cazenovia. Of course, I love it here in the Inner Harbor. And we know that Lake Placid's going to be coming up soon. So, Isaac, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. It's good. It's a little bittersweet to come down to the end of the season. Yeah. Kind of like you said, you can throw the records out of the books, with these two teams, two rivals that go way back to the Big East. These guys don't care about the records for respect and Northeast pride. Those guys want to go out there and give it their all today. The season kind of didn't go the way we kind of thought, and we talked about it in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I credit what you just said before, like you can't take health, in consideration. Hey, we made a prediction based on the team in the beginning of the season.
We got the 8 right.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, we did. We did get 8. Maybe we can get a 4. How about that?
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah,
4, to be the reverse. But, you and I made a prediction based on health. And based on Steve Angeli. And so, you can't fault that prediction that we made. But, a lot of people were hopeful, and they had reason to be. He was 3-1 as a starter. I mean, for goodness sakes, Yasin Willis had 3 rushing touchdowns against Tennessee of the SEC.
Right, yeah, I mean, to say that the way they came out of the gate, they had a challenge. I think everybody knew coming into the season the schedule was very challenging.
Yeah.
And to see the first 4 games the way it started, it was a lot of hope. And, we've seen this, though, around this side of Syracuse, though. The backups get a lot of action in the school, for some strange reason.
You and I are playing today.
Well, you might need it more than me. So.
I just need somebody to hit me in the back and knock my neck into the right position. I just need them to not guard the DM again.
There you go. So, but I mean, it's just a weird thing, We've seen that from time to time again from I would say the last 3 coaching staffs. You have a Terrell Hunt coming into his senior year. He goes down, and lo and behold, a kid named Eric Dungey pops up on the scene.
Yeah,
doesn't last too long in his first season, but still, it's the same repetitive kind of situation. And now today, you got Steve got opportunity to win the battle, and it's unfortunate that he took his injury and went down. But it gives you hope for the future, like you said.
Yeah.
It's nothing like, hey, let's move forward and give salute to these guys that stuck around for their senior year. They fought the battles, but you know what? It's a brotherhood. those guys, no matter what the record is, they went through the ups and downs in practice and the pain, and those guys that fought for positions and playing time, now they're trying to get their chance to get on the field and get an opportunity to show what they can do in front of the fan base.
Well, yeah, and I think, a medical red shirt for Steve Angeli, he already had a year if he played all this year.
Right.
So to have him for 2 more years, there's an excitement to that. I mean, personally, this is not, me telling somebody something that the player told me, but I'm saying personally, I don't think Ricky Collins is coming back.
Right.
I would be a little surprised if Jakari Williams comes back. So, I think maybe a Luke Carney, but I think Syracuse is going to be in the market for a quarterback. They're going to be in the market for somebody that's going to push Angeli. And, what did I say after the spring? I said, if Fran can go get another quarterback, my gut is that he goes and finds another guy. And that was after he said Ricky had the job. And it was my gut, and I trust my gut. And I said, if he's I think he's gonna get one. If he feels like there's a good one out there, he's gonna go get somebody.
Right.
And he went and got Steve Angeli, and so obviously there was proof in the pudding of my gut feeling on that. And he brought in Steve, and now I think he understands that he's gonna have to go and do this again, and he's gonna have to go and find another quarterback that's gonna push Steve and that's gonna make it interesting here. I think he needs to find some holes in the offensive line. I think he has to deal with the center position, the guard and the tackle. And again, what did I say at the beginning of the year? I said this to Steve Adazio, who's a former BC coach and a former Syracuse assistant coach.
Right.
I said to Steve, they look the part, but can they play the role? And what I meant by that with the offensive line is they're the tallest they've been in a million years. They're the widest they've been in a million years. But do they have good technique? Do they have good footwork? Do they know how to shoot their hands? Do they know how to block? Can they be successful, and can they do it consistently? And what we saw with the guys this year is that they look the part, but they haven't played the role.
Right.
And so I think, he'll be in the market for defensive and offensive linemen. He'll be in the market, I think, for a receiver, because I think either Jonte's going to the NFL or he's going to another team.
Right.
So, Daryl Gill said that he's looking at coming back, which is good news, and that would be a hopeful thing, right? And Daryl Gill's really made his hay here, and he's built himself up and come through the ranks. But you would imagine that they'll lose a Jonte Cook. Will Nixon's applying for another year.
That's good.
So he's, so the people that thought like, hey, he's done and, he can apply for another year. So he's going to be applying for another year. So if Will Nixon comes back, if Yasin Willis, which, allegedly he's coming back, my opinion, surely my opinion, is that he'll at least hear offers, including from maybe Pittsburgh, who had him originally before he flipped to Syracuse. But, I mean, if we surely look at offense, Dan Villari's done because of his eligibility. So they're going to have to search for a tight end. They're going to have, with no disrespect to someone that's here, they're going to have to look for wide receivers. I think they're going to lose Jonte Cook. They're going to have to look at the running back position, because you and I know some things that may happen in the backfield. And I think they have to look for a backup quarterback. So, I mean, let's start in offense. Your thoughts on the future?
Well, I'll be honest with you, when you talk about the receiver position, I'm kind of excited about the receiver room, because it's really young room that's filled with a lot of young guys. We got a lot of CBA talent that's sitting there working the opportunity. I love Jaden Hornsby. I think for some reason he's starting to get on the field, but he wasn't in the top, coming out of camp. But I think Jaden Hornsby, watching him through spring, he's done a lot of things. Kyle, when had the opportunity to play with Kyle a little bit in the spring, he really showed that he was one of those receivers that had some potential. So I don't know necessarily. And then, Gabe Daniels, that's another freshman guy that can do it. Johnson is another kid that kind of got hurt early in the season, and he has the opportunity to come back and build on his first year too. So I think there's a lot of talent in the wide receiver room. And if Cook leaves, it'd be a shame, but I think it might not be as bad as we think. There's a couple kids that's coming, hopefully not, signing this week. A couple 5-star kids that's in the receiver room. So I think we'll be good. Tight end room, that's going to be definitely, like you say, no disrespect, but it's all about depth on the team. You never know what's going to happen in the season. That's the same reason why we need another quarterback too.
Yeah.
You got to have competition. You got to have depth on the team because, this game is a physical game and anything can happen at any time. So, running backs, there's some young guys that still haven't seen the field. Tylee Kill has got an opportunity so far. Malachi Coleman is still back there working and grinding and trying to get his opportunity to hit the field. So,
Yeah.
And then we'll see what the 26 class brings in. But you just got to continue to recruit, go through the transfer portal, find some guys that can come in the league. I mean, I think that's what was special about last year was Fran understood what he was coming into. He probably evaluated the team during the bowl season and said, okay, this is what I need to bring in, set the foundation.
Yeah.
We've seen what he could do when we got decent players and not saying they're not, but those guys were senior-led. That was a senior-led team last year, full of guys that made it to the league and things like that. So, and I think Fran kind of looked at the situation this year and said, you know what, even though he said he's starting to play the young guys, but he kind of looked and said, hey, yeah, it's time to develop these guys and, bring them along. And you need the right people in the program that's going to be ready to fight from day one. And I think that's where he's going to. And as well as Fran,
Yeah.
he's a guy that hates losing. And I can see it on his face at the end of games. But I think he kind of checked himself and said, you know what, these guys are giving me everything I asked for. But we can build them, develop them. But, he's not going to settle for losing.
No.
That's one thing for sure.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination will he settle for being, a program that continues to do this. He always talks about the Block S and taking care of the Block S and what that means, and wanting to have respect for Syracuse to bring that back. And he understands that. He understands the weight of that and how important that is to make sure that you take care of a school that really hasn't had a lot of those great days, right. In recent history. So I'm going to bring you a little bit over here. So camera's trying to bounce away from Isaac. Gotta get Isaac on camera. But when we look at the history, right? I said this to somebody recently this week. I said, Syracuse is more the 4, 5, 6-win team, 3-win team in recent history than it is a 10-win team. Right. And he's trying to change that. He's trying to restore. And, by restoring, one of the things that I love that Syracuse has done, and much, congratulations and thankfulness goes to Rob Conrad, who I consider somebody that, I've gotten to know him over the years. We've built a good relationship on and off the air. And Rob reached out to me a week or so ago, and he said, hey, we're going to be doing this 44 thing. I want you to come to it. I want you to be a part of it. I want to be on your show. And that meant the world to me that he reached out to me to be on Wake Up Call and to be on the broadcast, that he thought of me. Mm-hmm. And then he said, I want you to be my guest. And so the fans are going to see the legend of 44 outside of Club 44 if you go to the game today, when you go to the game today. And you're going to see the honoring of the number 44. You're going to see the love for Jim Brown, Ernie Davis, Floyd Little, Michael Owens, Terry Richardson, and the last to wear 44, which is Rob Conrad. You're going to see Ernie Davis's cleats. You're going to see Jim Brown's helmet, which is in the range of being worth $500,000 to $1 million.
That's interesting.
So you're going to see a lot of cool things in this Legend of 44 mural that is now outside of Club 44 on the western side of the dome by stadium control when you come up the stairs. And so by gate B, essentially. Mm-hmm. And, so when we talk about the history, Rob Conrad doing this, assembling all this stuff, getting all this memorabilia together, and putting together this opportunity for us is really amazing, and it's really exciting, and I think the fans are going to love it. So if for nothing else, when you go to the Dome today, go to Club 44, go to the Legend of 44, take pictures next to it, see these relics. Right. I mean, you're going to be able to look in the glass and see things from Floyd Little and Ernie Davis, and Floyd Little's, wife was there, Deborah, who I've gotten to meet and talk with. She was there. Floyd Little, for those of you that know Wake Up Call, know the show, Floyd and I built a really good friendship over the last 8 years of his life. And we'll continue that until I get to see him in heaven someday. Right. And he said his son his grandson Blaze, he wanted Blaze to come to Syracuse. Blaze is at Syracuse now.
Okay.
So him and I talked about Blaze a long time ago. We actually had a conversation on the phone when I was in the parking lot for Destiny USA, like literally walking distance from Myers Creek here at Syracuse Inner Harbor. Floyd and I talked on the phone for like an hour about all kinds of stuff. So when you're at the Dome, go to the Legend of 44. It's going to bring you back. It's going to give you some history about the good old days, but hopefully we can have some new days be good old days, which begs the question, do we bring 44 back? And I want to get your thoughts.
I can understand the days where some of the youth kind of think about, they want to make a name for themselves. I think it should be, me personally, kind of like, not to copycat off of Virginia Tech, but I like what they do with the number 25.
Okay.
It's kind of like, and I don't know if they just do it as a captain of the game type thing, but I would like to see it presented to a player, outstanding player, maybe for the month or whatever, something that they stood out amongst all the other players and they earned the right to represent the 44 on the field.
Okay.
And it could be either side. It could be defensive side of the ball. It could be offensive side of the ball. But this is used as a reward on the field to kind of, give these kids the opportunity to, one, represent the number and fans can see it out on the field again. And now, if a kid, highly recruited kid, want to wear the number permanently, I think it's an option. But then again, like I said, most kids want to bring their own number, their own style. I mean, it's cool though to see different numbers mean certain things to different schools. Cause like 5 means something to Syracuse, 44 means something to Syracuse, 39 means something to Syracuse, and on and on. But I think it was quietly, and again, I told you, it was retired, but it was kind of retired before it was retired. I wish it didn't go away after Rob wore it. I think there's some opportunity to some other guys to put it on.
Yeah, they retired it 20 years ago, but technically they retired it before that because nobody wore it.
Right.
He wore it 95 to 98. No one's worn 44 at Syracuse in the 21st century. Nobody's worn it since 1998, so technically the number has been out of commission for almost 30 years. When you look at, we're in 2025 and it was 98, so 27 years we haven't seen it, but they officially retired it 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2005, I believe.
Yeah, Pete Sala, when he became the interim athletic director, that was like the big thing that he did, was retire 40, and I was there. I was there with Floyd, and I was there with Jim Brown was there, and they retired it back then, and I think 44 should be available. You want to know my parameters?
Go ahead.
So, if they had 44, they could use it as a recruiting. Because I was talking to Terry Richardson about it, and he talked about them presenting him the number.
Right.
And Rob Drummond, he told me that they told him he could have worn it if he wanted to.
Okay.
So before Michael Owens.
Right.
So when you look at what I would do, I would essentially go to visit running backs, the top in their state, top in the country. I go visit some of these guys, and I would bring them like a Jacques Patrick, who was the number 1 running back, I think, in New York State, or pardon me, in the state of Florida, and he was at Timber Creek in Orlando, and he ended up going to Florida State. So I would go to your house, I would talk to your family, I'd put the number 44 jersey on the table, and I would say, this is how I see you, this is what I think you can be, and this is how it's going to go down. You come to Syracuse, I'm reserving this number for you. Right. However, you have to earn it. So you can't wear it your freshman year. You can't wear it your sophomore year. You can wear it your junior year. So I bring 44 back, and this is how I get them to stay beyond the NIL money. This is how I get them to stay. That has to do with their work ethic, has to do with their talent, has to do with what I bought into. So I'm not just handing 44 to somebody that doesn't back it up. I'm going to put it on your table, show it to your grandmother, show it to your grandfather, show it to your mom, to your dad, to your dog, to your sister, and I'm going to say, this is your number if you show me in the first 2 years that you should wear it. and then your junior and senior year you wear 44, which keeps a guy at Syracuse for 4 years, makes them a part of history, makes them earn the number, but it unretires it and gives them the opportunity. So now the number's available, but you have to prove to me that I made the right decision.
No, I like that concept. It's something that, you know, gives them opportunity to work hard and give them a goal to achieve for. Because again, like you said, the number means something. Hey, might as well put a copy of the Express down on the table too. Tell them, hey, watch this.
Which in the Legend of 44, they have a sign for that.
Right. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of history that goes behind that number, and even Ernie himself, you know, he understood the opportunity was given to him when they wanted him to wear 44.
Yeah, it used to be a passing of the torch. Jim to Ernie, Ernie to Floyd, and on and on and on. And then Rob Conrad, for goodness sakes, he wore it as a fullback. I think way back in the day there was a quarterback that wore 44.
Right.
So, but I mean, yeah, I think you bring it back, because here's the thing. We keep talking about the history of Syracuse football, the greatness of Syracuse football, 44 and how wonderful it was. But we keep getting farther and farther away from the history. Farther and farther away from the glory day,
right.
Farther and farther away from 44. Like, why should fans be deprived of getting to see their own 44?
Right.
Like Floyd Little, right? Ernie Davis, Rob Conrad, Terry Richardson, Michael Owens, Jim Brown. Like, we saw it, but my grandmother got to see Ernie Davis. I want to get to see somebody, you know, Rob Conrad. When I was a little kid, I was like 9 years old, but like, I would like to see 44 be used to recruit, because it's something that Syracuse can use to their advantage. And when they use that to their advantage and they have that opportunity, to me, it's going to help you in recruiting. It's going to help you getting top running back talent. It's going to make you RBU again, because you bring all these kids here and you go, look at what we used to be. Look at what we used to be. But how do you connect those kids from what you used to be to what you can be? You connect them with the number. Number 5 isn't retired. Marvin Graves wore it, right? And we saw that, you know, Donovan McNabb obviously wore it. And we've seen some defensive guys wear it. We've seen some offensive guys wear it.
Marcus Sales.
You know, I think, right, Marcus Sales. So I think that Syracuse should unretire the number so that you and I can tell our grandkids, like my grandmother told me about Ernie Davis.
Right. I mean, it's an opportunity for those guys to say, your story will be a little bit different, because you said these guys earned the right to wear that jersey and represent the university. But then the other side, I'll say, I want to add to your concept again. I was like, I would feel it would be good for a defensive player to be able to wear it. How cool it would have been for a kid like Zaire Franklin to wear.
Because he wore 4, so he could be wearing 44.
And actually, 44 was his high school number too, in which he represents
with the Colts.
With the Colts, so.
And what does Sean Tucker wear with Tampa?
Right.
44.
Right, and I don't think that's a mistake. The team know where they got him from, and they say, hey, if you want to be that next great back, here's the number, you know. So it makes sense, and I think it's a good tool on the recruiting scene to use. And I like the concept that it's just not given to you day one. You got to earn it.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, it's the most identifiable number in connection to Syracuse, to the fans, to sports in this community. So to keep getting farther from it and know that it was never going to be taken back again, I think it's sad. Now, from what I heard from Rob Conrad, Jim Brown was adamant that 44 stays retired. Floyd Little wanted it to be retired until Blaze came here, his grandson, and he wanted Blaze to wear 44. He told me that years ago, and he also said that to Rob Conrad.
Right.
And when I spoke with Terry Richardson, he said, you don't retire a number to unretire a number. So, you know, it seemed like talking with Terry that maybe he'd be open to it because of the way he responded. And it seems like maybe Rob Conrad would be open to it because of the way he responded. But, you know, whenever I talk to Rob always told me I defer to Jim and to Floyd.
Right.
You know, he said I defer to those guys. Now, he did say something interesting. He told me that he did an event, I think it was like a golf tournament, with Jim Brown. and he went up to Jim when he found out the number was getting retired, and he said, "Hey Jim, did you hear they're retiring my number?" And he's like, Jim looked at him like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, then when he got that it was a joke, but they said that Jim was more adamant about keeping it retired. Floyd was more open to it, but the Terry Richardsons and the Rob Conrads have consistently deferred to Jim and Floyd, but Jim and Floyd are no longer physically here with us. They're up in heaven. So now the question becomes, does Terry want to do it? Or do you go to, Jim Brown's widow? Do you go to Floyd Little's widow? Do you go to Terry? Do you go to Michael Owens? Do you go to Rob Conrad? Because at some point, think about it. What does Syracuse have against someone getting recruited to Ohio State? We're unretiring 44. What does Syracuse have to somebody going to Florida? We're unretiring 44. What does Syracuse have to somebody going to Clemson? We're unretiring 44. To me, if you bring it back, it's going to be massive. And think about if Fran Brown brings back 44, that's his legacy.
Yeah. It's definitely a feather in his cap. If you want to attract a high talent to the school and you give them opportunity to present themselves to the community. So it's a tool. Again, like I said, some of these kids are a little bit different in this day and age. We see the value in it, and I think it's a good idea for the university if they choose to go that route. But then, like I said, I understand some of these kids are out here trying to make a name. Actually, the biggest thing for me, I just want to keep the kids here as long as I can, With the day of the transfer
and 44
portal,
keeps them.
Yeah, exactly. With the day of the portal, you never know what's going to happen. But,
right.
You would hate to do that and then somebody hits the portal on you. But, again, you earn it. It's not given to you. So I understand it. I like that idea.
Yeah, I think you present it, you bring it to their house, you tell them the plan, you can wear it your junior and senior year, which pushes Fran's whole thing about guys getting education and the Syracuse, Syracuse 60 or whatever he calls it. I forget the name of it.
Oh yeah, the number of days after you graduate.
Yeah, that you're going to get a job.
Yeah.
So, it promotes staying in school. It promotes things beyond NIL. It promotes the history, connecting history to the current and to the future. It makes you earn the number, and it gives them a reason to get their education, to stay and keep wearing the number, because why would you want to give it up? So I think that that's the best means of doing it, which keeps it all in an earning situation, and it keeps the history alive, and it, God forbid, it pushes kids to actually stay in school.
Right, and that's what I was going to say when you were talking about NIL. So there's all these different factors of, who's getting this NIL deal, who's getting that, and that's all good. But then,
if you gave me 44, I wouldn't even ask for money. I'd be like, that's enough.
But that's the cherry on top, though. Distinguishing from this player to this player, who's my top NIL earner? But okay, these two are neck and neck. But guess what? You stood out in the program. You represent what a Syracuse Orangeman is like, and then hey, we're gonna award you with the 44. So that's I would think that's not even like a tiebreaker, but like the most distinguished player on the team that earns that.
Hashtag bring it back.
Bring it back.
So defensively, if you're Fran and you're looking in the portal, you're looking at recruiting and whatnot. What's your viewpoint on the like Syracuse's weakest link 15 years ago was their defensive backs, their secondary. It's been their strongest suit in the guys that have been going to the NFL, and Fatu Melifonwu and Garrett Williams, and looking at Trill Williams, Andre Sisco. So now the question becomes, who's the weakest link? Where are we at? What are your thoughts? Linebacker position, they were going to have to make up for Justin Barron being gone and Marlowe Wax Jr. being gone. Darren McDonald goes down. Anwar Sparrow takes his name out of the transfer portal before the season. He's done some things. He's got his first ever touchdown with his defensive return for a touchdown in the Dome. The only points scored against North Carolina. And then you look at Antoine Delorier and what he's been able to do as a true freshman coming out of Canada, then going to prep school down south in Georgia. So the question becomes, is the biggest glaring issue the D-line, the linebacker, or the defensive back position?
I would say it's two for me, and it's position and scheme for me. Position-wise, I think it's more defensive end. You know, they don't really generate a lot of pressure without running in a blitz. And then schematic-wise, what we run 4-2-5. The other position that could be a weakness.
I think what we run right now is run away.
The safety, whether it's the rover or the strong safety, that guy got to be able to come down in the box and make a tackle. And then I would say, that's why I say schematically, if we're going to stick with 4-2-5, you got to have a strong safety. Either way, it's the rover or the strong safety, somebody that's going to make that tackle. Because a lot of times what we've seen in the last few games, those guys get left one-on-one with a running back coming through the hole and they're just missing tackles. Or, you know, they're getting chewed up by a block. So if you're not going to stick with a 4-2-5, I'd rather they go back to a 4-3, bring another outside linebacker, and be able to control that gap, because unless we're just not disguising our coverage correctly, where we got the safety sticking way back and then he trying to charge to the line to make that tackle, it's not working. And like you said, I'd rather see Deuce playing cornerback than playing safety.
Yeah.
So
I don't get it. And I asked Elijah Robinson, the D coordinator, about it, and he said, well, we think the NFL sees him as a safety, so we see him as a safety. I was like, if he's not a good safety in college, the NFL is not seeing him at safety. And think about when Deuce Chestnut first came to Syracuse, and guys were trying him like they were trying Demetrius Samuel Jr., and then he got on an island and he played so well that LSU wanted him.
Right.
So why do you have Deuce? I mean, I look at Zaire Franklin in the scheme, where Zaire Franklin was in an attack defense under Schaefer, and it was great, and then they put him in Brian Ward's defense, and it punished him. And then people all of a sudden, you know, had him fall down the board from when he should have been a third rounder to being a seventh rounder. And then last year, he led the entire NFL of all defensive players, all defensive positions in total tackles, which he also had led within the past few years before. So you look at a seventh rounder, and I said, they're going to be shocked when these Colts guys are like, who the hell is this guy? Seventh round guy. How did he make the team when he's picked 200, whatever? And then I said he's going to make the team. I'm not surprised he made the team. I'm not surprised he's a captain. Not surprised that he's out there wreaking havoc. And, you know, but you look at, he was in a good defense with Schaefer, and then a bad defense under Brian Ward, bad scheming.
Right.
And it punished him. And then I look at that with Deuce Chestnut in the sense of he's a corner, good. Now he's a safety, bad. So now he's at the mercy of the fact that this Syracuse defensive coaching staff has him in the wrong position, just like Zaire Franklin was in the wrong defense under Brian Ward.
Right. So it could be two things. It could be personnel and scheme, and then we've seen that. But honestly, like I said, big glaring weakness to me is defensive end. I just don't think they bring enough pressure.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks sometimes have too much. Now, I'll give David Reese credit. I've seen plenty of times where David Reese is getting there, but he's just not quite. You know, maybe it's just the angle. You know, teams feel him coming. Yeah. I know they watch tape and they see it because he's right there breathing down the neck of the quarterback. But just some reason he's just not getting the sack sometimes. But he needs help on the other side. He needs another guy that come around. You know, kind of like the Robinson days and. I can't think of the young man named the other defensive end we had during Dino's time frame. Those both were two bookend defensive ends. You know, Coleman and Robinson. You know, those guys would come around the corner and play. You know, play games with the tackles and get the tackle on the quarterback. So that's just the scheme part of it is, you know, you got to have the right guys that are going to be able to do that. If you're not going to bring a blitz, then, you know, you got to have guys that can get to the quarterback.
Right, you know, and that's the thing. I mean, Schaefer's defense worked.
Right.
Putting more guys on the front line was better. And I think Syracuse in the future, they're going to and you hear Fran talk about it. You've heard him talk about scheming. You've heard him talk about the offense moving forward. He said we can't just do one thing, which I think he's referring to Jeff Nixon's desire to force the pass and not balance with the run. And so that's my opinion.
Right.
But, you know, I think he said that Elijah Robinson and Jeff Nixon will both be here next year. But the way he said it in that press conference I was in made me feel like, oh, they'll be on staff, but will they be the coordinator?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I think he's really got to look at Because listen, if your coordinators, Jeff Nixon is going to force the pass no matter who his quarterback is. That's what he's shown us, right? And Elijah Robinson is going to play guys out of position and maybe have his scheming not be as strong. And they got to do that. I mean, think about it. You don't like the 4-2-5. Where does Syracuse get beat so much in running the ball? And you got one less guy there. You got 5 guys in the secondary, but by the time they get to you, it's too late. So, I mean, either Fran goes to his coordinators and goes, you can stay my coordinators if you change your scheme, or you can be the definition of insanity, and I can fire you.
Yeah. Keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
But I agree. I think sometimes defense got to be more attacking and not reacting to what the offense is trying to do. You got to dictate what offense do. And then vice versa, offense got to be complementary. You know, how many times have we seen it, the offense go 3 and out, the defense is back out there, and now they're getting worn down. And sooner or later, the dam is going to break. And that happens too often to a lot of teams. It's just not a Syracuse thing. I see that all over the board. You know, if the offense can't sustain the drive, and, you know, believe it or not, when the offense scores, it gives the defense momentum.
Right.
And those guys get more hype to go out there and get the ball back to the offense. Or, you know what I'm saying? So when it's deflating when you see 21 on the board and you ain't even got in the game yet.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's why I say you got to be complementary in all 3 phases of football. And that's just where it really has to be. And then, you know, we can say, woe is us, you know, we don't have our quarterback. But guess what? Like you say, if you know you don't have the quarterback, then don't be a pass-heavy team. Right. Do something different. Change it up.
You obviously knew you didn't have a Steve Angeli because you went and got one. Mm-hmm. So stop acting like that's who you got.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the offense, just like the Ravens went back and got Tyler Huntley when Lamar Jackson went down, because they had Huntley, they let Huntley go, they brought him back because he ran the offense the best without Lamar Jackson, and almost beat the Dolphins in the playoffs a few years ago. So you bring back the guy that you know isn't Lamar, but he's similar to Lamar.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what you do. Defensively, for me, listen, I'm going to go back to George O'Leary, a former Syracuse assistant and head coach of UCF. I'm going to go back to what George O'Leary said, and I've said it a million times on Wake Up Call, and I'm going to say it again. Mm-hmm. He said, you build a team from the trenches out. You go from the offensive and defensive line first. You build in the trenches. If you don't do it that way, you can't win. If you're a coach that does anything other than build from the inside out, you should do something else, have a different profession, because you don't know how to coach. Mm-hmm. And so I think Syracuse has to assess the offensive and defensive line. They don't get to the quarterback consistently. They don't do it enough. They don't scare quarterbacks, and the offensive line can't block anybody to save their lives this year. Right. So why can't Syracuse run the ball? The offensive line's not good. Why can't Syracuse pass the ball? The offensive line's not good. So, you know, I mean, they're going to have to work on those things, and they're going to have to assess those. They're going to have to get some more linebackers. They might have to go, listen, I like Gary Bryant III, and he can come back. Mm-hmm. I like Antoine Delorier, and he can come back. So there's guys I like, but, you know, I think Demetrius Samuel's going to be better. I think Deuce should be a corner. I can't wait to hear Fran Brown say in spring practice, when you say, what have you done going into spring that's different? And he's going to look at the media and he's going to look, hopefully he looks me right in the eye and he goes, well, we chose to move Deuce Chestnut back to the position he should have been at the whole time at corner.
This is his last year, though. That's the unfortunate thing.
Oh, wait, is this the senior?
I think this is senior year.
Oh, well, then I'm going to have to cry myself to sleep tonight.
But Chris Fields,
I don't know why in my brain he was a junior.
Yeah, I think he got probably lost that year at LSU.
Yeah. Hey, Fran, how can we work this out? Diego Pavia's in his 13th year, so how can we make this work out? If Diego Pavia is not at Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt's not relevant. So, how do we work out having that tight end from Miami that was in his 9th year?
Or a quarterback from Louisville.
Or the fact that David Reese is in year 16. I said to David Reese, I said, are you wearing number 8 because you're in your 8th year eligibility? He said, yes, I am. I said, all right, David Reese, I feel you.
We got a 9 jersey out there.
Yeah, we got a 9 jersey for you, Reese. Rashard Anderson used to wear it, but we got one for you.
There you go.
Rashard Damn Anderson is what he had on his social media. But before we hop out of here, talking about all the glaring issues and what Syracuse needs to do. What's been your favorite thing about this season? Your favorite player? How about this? Give me your favorite offensive, defensive, and special teams players this year before we hop out of here.
Oh, man. You're going to put me on the spot on this one.
Yes. By the way, I like that the longer we've been on, Myers Creek filling in, more people sitting here. We got a guy laughing about Diego Pavia being 37 years old. We got some people here wearing orange that are not in their heads that want to see 44 come back. We got people getting excited. Can we get another clap for Syracuse? Can we show some love for Syracuse?
There we go.
Yeah. How about this? How about this? I'm going to ask you to do something for me that Otis Hill and John Wallace asked you to do. So when I say the Cuse is in the house, you got to say, oh my God. We're going to do it. As soon as I say Cuse in the house, I want to hear it. Because I miss those days. And we know that everybody misses Cuse is in the house. And I still have that sign that hangs in my studio for Wake Up Call. So here we go on 3. I'm going to do it, and then we're going to say it. When the Cuse is in the house... Oh, you can do better than that. Say, when the Cuse is in the house.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Let's go. That's right. I appreciate y'all. So we're giving our offensive, defensive, and special teams player of the year. And then we're going to do a score for today. And then we're going to wish you all a safe trip to the Dome. But when the Cuse is in the house, oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Man, I miss those days. I miss those days. That's going to be my hype man. You know Busta Rhymes has a hype man?
Yeah.
That's my hype man right
That's a
there.
little flip right there.
So, what's your name, sir? Andy?
There you go.
Andy's my hype man right there.
Oh, my God.
There it is. All right. Offense, defense, special
So
teams.
let's do it both ways. We're going to do, obviously,
Yeah.
Steve Angeli.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
I
steal
still
that
think
one.
Steve Angeli's the most valuable player
He still leads the team in passing.
because look at his value.
His 1,300 yards for 4 games still leads the team. So
Right. He was leading the nation when
Exactly.
he got hurt.
Exactly.
3-1 with Steve Angeli, 0-7 without Steve Angeli.
Yeah. So, I mean, that says a lot. I mean, the proof is right there in the pudding.
When I saw him yesterday, I had to keep myself, because he was like, hey, what's up, how you doing? I had to keep myself from hugging him and saying, I miss you. I miss you too much. But
so what's your offense? Let's do it that way.
so yours is Steve Angeli?
Yeah.
So mine is also Steve Angeli, but I'll change it up just because I don't want to say the same one. My offensive player of the year is a guy who's played quarterback, running back, tight end, wide receiver. He is one of my favorite human beings. Him and I are going to be doing a video series after the game today during his time between the end of the season and the start of the NFL. I will be having a Dan Squared series with Dan Villari.
There we go.
So Villari is my player of the year.
Yeah, I like that choice. And again, he was a benefit of Angeli in the beginning of the season. Those first 4 games, he was almost like another person that was leading tight ends and reception and yards. So, that's another benefit of those.
Dan Villari is an NFL. He looks the part of the NFL tight end. He catches the ball a certain way. He's built his body up. That man went from Michigan to Syracuse. He went from quarterback to tight end to quarterback to tight end to like back and forth a million times. He has done everything the coaching staff has asked him to do. He found God. He got close to God a couple years ago. We talk about faith more than anything else, and I love that about Dan. I saw him last night, got to talk with him for a little while. I love Dan Villari. I love the Villari family. I told him he's got to watch Tulsa King because us Italians got to get our anger out somehow. So sometimes it's just watching somebody else do it on a TV
There you
show.
go.
And shout out to Sylvester Stallone, who's reminding people what it's like to, push your nose to the side and have somebody in the family. But yeah, I love Dan Villari.
There you go.
Yeah, I think the NFL will definitely give him a look.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. He definitely earned the opportunity to get a look. Defensively, player of the year for me, I'll go back to the UConn game. Antoine Delorier, he had a breakup pass in the end zone.
Yep.
To help give Syracuse their victory. So, there you go. I think as a young freshman coming in and being able to take the reins and kind of play middle linebacker says a lot about the kid.
Yeah.
So he was a big recruiting hit when everybody saw his social media page. When they talk about bringing in the guns, the guy had the guns and everything else you have,
Yeah.
He came out of central casting when you look for a football player. that's definitely who you thought of as a middle linebacker. So Antoine Delorier is my defensive player.
And I'm going to take the Courvoisier song, and I'm going to change it up a little bit and say you can't get past the Delorier.
There you go. There you go.
That's what I'm going to say. So I love Antoine Delorier. My defensive player of the year, man. Ooh. You know what? It's got to be because he's gotten better. He's grown. He plays offense, defense, and special teams. He's been underutilized. But I think, like I said, the more they throw at him, the more they test him, the better he can become. And I think he's better now than he was in the beginning of the year. It's my guy, Demetrius Samuel Jr.
Yeah, I like that pick. I was thinking about, like you said, how often do we see teams even throw at him now?
Yeah.
In the beginning,
when
that's
you hear
all
anybody
you saw.
testing Demetrius Samuel right now.
Yeah, I see Chris Peel get more targets than Samuels now, so you can tell he probably putting a lot of work on film, and teams are starting to recognize who he is on that side of the ball.
All right, special teams player of the year.
I'm gonna give it to Trip Woody. You know, when we get in the field goal range, you know, sometimes the kid is on.
Yeah.
For a freshman, I don't know, for some reason I thought he was like a senior transfer from Wake Forest until I looked at the roster and realized he was a freshman.
Isn't it good, though, to have a guy in the ACC that's named Trip instead of somebody in the ACC that trips people like Grayson Allen?
Yeah.
From Duke?
Yeah, it definitely.
Remember them days? He had a lot of leg spasms.
Yeah, for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. So my special teams player of the year is a guy you're going to see punting in the NFL. He holds the record for the average punt yard per punt. He's a guy who has told me that they told him to not hit that scoreboard, that thing in the center, that giant screen that's at the top of the dome. He said that they suggested to him to not do it, but him and I had a little laugh about the fact that he can do it, and that is Jack Mother freaking Stonehouse.
There you go.
That man is a monster.
The mustache.
And when I got to be in a movie and work in a movie a few weeks ago, they shaved my goatee off to my mustache, and I looked at Jack Stonehouse and I said, "Who wore it better?" Because him and I looked a little similar for a little while.
I got you. Rocking the stash.
But I'm going to give it up to Jack Stonehouse. So that's our offensive, defensive, and special teams player of the year. So they're playing Boston College. I think this is going to be a close one. I think BC is going to treat this like a championship game. And
yeah, I wouldn't sleep on BC. I watched a couple of games of them against Georgia Tech.
And Billy O'Brien recruits this area.
Yeah. And
Boston College recruits Syracuse Central and upstate New York very, very well.
And I believe they're on their backup quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. And the kid doesn't look bad either. I watched them play a couple of games. But, you know, Boston College is going to do what they do. And they're going to run the ball. And what we just talked about, you got to be able to stop the run. And once you stop the run, then you get opportunity to rush the passer. But those guys coming in here, they're not messing around. So I hope it'll be a tough, close game, you know. But like I said, if they can play complimentary football, then they can keep it close, keep everybody into the game, and keep the crowd into the game, because I know the crowd brings that energy.
Yeah.
So it's not like being inside the dome, you know, when you got the fans behind you.
Listen, there was a sitcom that aired at night on ABC years ago. And they started the sitcom. It was about like sports radio. I think it was called Sports Radio, or no, it was Sports something because it was TV. But it was like Sports Center, and they put the dome up and they talked about the dome. I am very spoiled when people ask me the best arenas I've ever been in, because I say Madison Square Garden and I say the Dome. I've been spoiled to be in AT&T Stadium, the home of the Cowboys. I've been in Mercedes-Benz, the home of the Falcons. So I got a love for a lot of places, but I don't love anything. I don't love any place, I should say, more than my hometown. I'm proud to be from Syracuse. People say, why did you come back from Florida to start your business here? I said, because I got my city right behind me. If I fall, they got me. Dan Tortora Broadcast Media began here in Syracuse, New York. and it stretches out across the world thanks to amazing people from America, from Canada, from Mexico, from Sweden, from China, from Russia, from the Middle East, from Italy, from Spain, the United Kingdom, France, and so on and so forth. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. One more time this season, Wake Up Call Game Day Live is proud to call Myers Creek our exclusive home. Happy to be here with you at Myers Creek. Go to 33 Rippleton Road in the country, out in Cazenovia. Come here to Syracuse Inner Harbor to 720 Van Rensselaer Street, and to Jim Brown, to Ernie Davis, to Floyd Little, to everybody that made it what it is, to Donovan McNabb, to Don McPherson, to Rob Conrad and all the work that he's done. Syracuse, we love you. Wake Up Call Game Day, we appreciate being here, Myers Creek. One more time for Syracuse. Give it up for the Orange.
Let's go
One
Orange.
more time. Let's go Orange. We'll see you in the dome. And Andy, my hype man right there. One more time. Q's in the house, Andy. That's right. Everybody needs an Andy. Take care. Have a good night. And enjoy the game.